Chapter 25. Postmaster Roman Higby, sorting the mail in Victor, Montana, was startled by familiar faces on a wanted for questioning poster. He recognized the faces of some of his friends and neighbors, undeniably those of Ras, Thomas, and Jim Quigley. But the names on the poster said Tony, Anthony, and Piero Giovanni. Not wanting to hang the posters in the post office as required by law, Roman left them on his desk. Knowing someone from the Quigley family would stop by for their mail before the end of the day, he needed to talk to Ras before he hung the poster. But he knew all the other post offices in the country, including the ones close by, would not provide the same courtesy. Early in the afternoon, Higby saw Quigley's Chevrolet touring car pull up to the front of the post office. Ras came through the front door and walked toward his P.O. box as Higby rounded the counter. "Ras, I need you to come back here. I need to show you something," he said with concern. "Sure," Ras replied, following him around the counter. "This came in today." Higby handed him the poster. Ras studied the poster, thinking about the exact words to say in response. Having constantly rehearsed a solution for every scenario he could imagine for the last 10 years, he replied with a trained poker face. "I guess I'd better send a letter to the FBI and see what's going on. It seems odd that there would be another man with 2 sons who all look like my 2 sons and me. I'll go down to Hamilton and speak with the sheriff, and then write to the FBI in Chicago. Thanks for showing this to me, Roman. Can I keep this to show the sheriff?" "Sure, Ras." For the first time, Roman wondered who Ras was and what he and his sons might have done. Somehow, this must be a mistake, as unlikely as that was. Jim and Thomas Quigley worked tightening rusty bolts on the sleigh they used to feed their cows when Ras pulled up. Thomas lay under the sleigh, beating ice off a bolt so he could get a wrench on it. As he hammered, snow and ice above his face shook loose and filled his eyes. Jim bent over and tightened the bolt that Thomas had cleaned off. "Thank God for these penman's long wool underwear. I've been lying here in the snow for 30 minutes, and I'm still warm as toast." Thomas slid his body out from under the sleigh, stood up, and brushed the snow from his Woolrich coat and Levi's. Noticing his dad had just driven in, he took off his stocking hat and wrung the water from his red top gloves. "The sky is sure black. Looks like it's going to snow some more," Thomas commented to Jim. Ras climbed out of his car and walked over to the boys. "Come into the barn with me, boys," he ordered. The boys were not used to hearing their father's stern tone and complied immediately. "Look at this," Ras stated, handing the poster to Thomas. Thomas stared at it, a horrid look of fear forming on his face. He handed it to Jim, who grimaced. "First of all, I don't want your mother to know about this until we have talked to the sheriff. We need to refine our story so we all say the same thing. The story is that I wanted to show you boys the place where I grew up and introduce you to your Uncle Mario. We spent the night at Rosty's, gambling and drinking, and left when Lucas Fontanilla came in with 3 other guys and told us to leave. I sensed there was trouble between Lucas and Mario, and I didn't want to be involved. So we left and never looked back. I knew Lucas well. We were kids together, and we were good friends. I wanted to talk to him and catch up, but the time wasn't right. He told me to leave, or I would be mixed up in the family business just because I was there. He knew I had been hiding far away and had changed my name so we could be detached and safe from the mob. So he told me to leave. I just did what he told me to do." Mario admitted he killed Lucas, Thomas reflected. How could Lucas have been there if he had already been killed? "As you know, I read the newspapers from Chicago," Ras started, cool and calculating. "The cops have been looking for Lucas for months. They don't know he's dead. The paper states that they are looking for him in connection with the big robbery that occurred last summer. They think he may have taken all the money and disappeared. I got Mario to admit to killing Lucas, but I'm sure he didn't admit it to the cops. Since I'm sure my friend Lucas is dead, we can blame everything on him, and we're home free. That's the story we are going to tell, and we're not offering any further details. You boys know nothing about any of those thugs, and you need to make sure you do not answer any questions about anything other than the night we visited Mario at Rosty's. We just covered the only answers to those questions. You both know when we got there, what we did when we left, and why. If anyone asks you any other questions, say you don't know. Your mom's story will be that she only knew we went on a road trip to New York and stopped to see Mario on the way back. That's all. The only thing we will tell the sheriff is that we saw this poster and want the FBI to know where they can find us if they wish to do so. We want to help them in any way we can. The only bad part is that now they know who and where we are. But that's okay now that Mario is dead, and I have distanced myself from the mob for 10 years. I think we will be safe from all of them now. The good part is we will probably be able to visit your mother's family, except for Sergi and Marina, who I didn't want to see anyway, and I can catch up with some of my old friends. Go tell your mother we'll be back in a few hours, then get in the car. Tony Giovanni and his sons Anthony and Piero, Aka Ras Quigley and his boys Thomas and Jim drove west to the highway, turned south, and drove the 12 miles to the Ravalli County Sheriff's Office. They fessed up to their real identities and assured Sheriff Buck Reynolds that they were willing to help the FBI in any way they could. In the Chicago FBI office, Lance Drury looked through the mail on his desk. "Look at this, Harley," Lance exclaimed, reading a letter from the Ravalli County Sheriff. "Looks like we need to book a couple of train tickets to our Butte, Montana, field office. And here's a letter from Tony Giovanni himself, offering his help in whatever we need him to do." Harley read the two short letters, which only disclosed the location of Tony and his boys and their willingness to help. "I guess the wanted poster smoked him out," Harley stated happily. "We need to get out there and question those guys as soon as possible before they disappear for another 10 years. Lance replied, rereading the letters. "Let's get tickets on the first train out of here," Harley agreed. 2 days later, Lance Drury and Harley Parks arrived at the Butte, Montana, FBI field office. They checked out a cart from the field office carpool and drove the 150-plus miles to Hamilton, Montana. The next morning, the two detectives met with the sheriff, who accompanied them to the Quigley Ranch, located just outside Victor, Montana. At the site of the expansive red barn and the white Victorian ranch house nestled in the cottonwoods along the Bitterroot River and the majestic Sapphire Mountains rising above, Harley exclaimed, "This is the most beautiful place I have ever seen." No wonder Tony Giovanni left Chicago behind and became Ras Quigley from Victor, Montana. Sheriff Buck Reynolds, Lance Drury, and Harley Parks knocked on the front door of the Quigley home. Ras opened the door. "Hello, Sheriff. I have been expecting you," Ras said with cool resolve. The sheriff introduced Ras to the two FBI agents. The three men were invited in, and Jill served them hot coffee and homemade cinnamon rolls. "When I saw this wanted poster in the post office, I contacted the sheriff immediately," Ras started. "I am Tony Giovanni, and these are my boys, Piero and Anthony." Ras pointed to the pictures on the poster. "How may I help you?" "If you are Tony Giovanni, why are you going by the name of Ras Quigley?" Harley asked, already knowing the answer. "My dad and brother lived a life of crime in which I never participated, even though I was born and raised into it. Just because of my name, the stench of the mob followed me everywhere I went. 10 years ago, my dad offered me a deal. He made everyone believe that I was killed in a gang-related dispute and buried an empty coffin under a headstone bearing my name so I could move far away, change my name, and start a new life. It took more than a year for Lena and the boys to disappear and reunite with me here in Montana so we could live a good, clean life together as the Quigley family," Ras explained. "It appears your plan worked well. We have been looking for you with no results for several months," Harley replied. "I assume you are aware of your brother's murder?" "Yes, I am," Ras said. "I read the Chicago Tribune." We have reason to believe you were at Rosty's the night of his murder, Lance interjected, trying to throw Ras a curveball. Yes, all three of us were there that night. The boys wanted to see and understand why we've been hiding and what we've been hiding from. I took them to Rosty's, where I spent my childhood sweeping the floors, getting to know the thugs who were competing for the illegal dollars flowing so freely in Chicago. Dad tried to groom me to take over the family business, but I didn't want to be hooked into that kind of life. My brother, Mario, wanted to take over the family business, so Dad did what he could to alienate me from that life and the bad things that follow when you succumb to it. Ras explained further, surprising both Lance and Harley with the admission of being at Rosty's on the night in question. We have several witnesses who said you were there talking to the two upstairs security guards after the place closed down. Harley stated matter-of-factly, yes, we were waiting for Mario to close his business down for the night, and then we were going to have breakfast together. I hadn't seen him for 10 years and wanted the boys to see what kind of a calculating villain he was. Ras informed the suspicious detectives. Did you go have breakfast with him? Harley pursued. No, we didn't. We were told to leave before Mario was ready. Ras answered. Who told you to leave? Lance asked. Lucas Fontanilla, Ras said, stone-faced. Did you know Fontanilla? Harley asked. I grew up with Lucas. His dad worked for my dad until he died about 15 or 20 years ago. Lucas wanted to have his father's job someday, but since I wasn't there, I don't know how he fit in after I left, Ras explained. Why did Lucas tell you to leave? Lance asked. He didn't say, Ras answered. He just said, get out of here, or you're going to get mixed up in all the shit you've been hiding from. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, it's good to see you. Now get out of here. Knowing what kind of games those guys played, we left immediately. When you found out Mario had been murdered, why didn't you report this to the authorities? Harley asked. I know what kind of games those guys play, and I didn't want to play, Ras continued. Unless you want to get dead, you don't get between two mobsters or a mobster and the cops unless you're in the game. And I wasn't in the game, Ras reiterated. Were you close to your brother? Lance asked. Not at all. I was glad to leave him and Chicago behind. I miss Dad, Lena's family, and lots of friends. But I can't say as I ever miss Mario, Ras said. How about Lucas? Was he a good friend? Harley asked. Yes, when we were growing up, Ras replied. And we stayed friends because I never got between him and anything that would cause any trouble between us. Do you know where he is now? Lance asked. Not a clue. Those guys move around, so you guys can't find them, Ras replied. What can you tell us about a farm with a big red barn out on the road between Skokie and Cicero? Harley asked. I read in the paper you finally busted that place and killed Lena's wayward siblings, Sergi and Marina. Dad had it built when I was really young. The barn was white then. That underground garage held lots of secrets I tried not to know anything about. Ras explained further. Do you know of any other places your father and brother may have hidden something? Lance pushed. Nope, I didn't know when I was there, and I've been gone for 10 years. So I'm afraid I can't help you, Ras said. With everyone gone from the family business, I want to go to Chicago and see all my friends and Lena's family. What about Fontanilla? Lance asked. Are you going to visit him? If you can't find Lucas, I don't think I can either. You have to make damn sure if you catch him. He knows nothing about this conversation. Just because we were friends doesn't mean he wouldn't kill me and my boys, Ras explained with a worried look. Where are your boys now? Harley asked. They're out feeding the cows, Ras informed the three men who stared intently at him. Mind if we talk to them alone? Not at all, Ras answered. I'll take you to them. Ras escorted the three outside and introduced them to Thomas and Jim, who had just finished feeding and were in the barn taking the harness off the team. I'll leave you guys so you can talk, Ras stated, heading back to the house. Harley and Lance stayed in the barn, asking Thomas and Jim the same questions and getting identical answers. The two FBI detectives grilled all four members of the Quigley family for several hours, reviewing their story to find a flaw, but to no avail. I hope you will continue to work with us when more information becomes available, Lance said appreciatively, wanting to believe their story. Sure, as long as you can guarantee us Fontanilla or any other thugs don't find out where your information came from, Ras said. I think we can do that, Lance assured. I didn't say think. I said guarantee, Ras reiterated. Where were you on July 12th? Lance suddenly asked. That day has no particular significance to me. Does it to you boys? Ras asked his sons. We were putting up hay in July, but I don't remember that specific day, Jim replied innocently. Yeah, that's about all I could tell you, Ras agreed. Jillina removed a calendar from the wall and thumbed it back to July. That was Grange night. We all went to Grange that evening, she pointed out. Is there anyone who could vouch for you? Harley asked. I can, Sheriff Buck interrupted. That was the night we had the horseshoe tournament. I beat all three of them. Anybody around here can vouch for them that night. Okay, Harley said. I can't think of anything else right now. Let's go back to Hamilton, Sheriff. The three got into the sheriff's car and drove away from the Quigley's house. How well do you know this guy, Sheriff? Lance asked. Pretty well, I thought, Buck answered earnestly. Everyone likes the whole family. When they came here, they seemed a little out of place. It was obvious they had no ranching experience. Ras hired help to show him and his boys the ropes. They were fast learners and became self-sufficient, but they are not woven of the same cloth as the folks born and raised here. Ras is a pillar of the community. He is there to help anyone in need and actively participates in the Grange and other local affairs. What I have learned about him today fills in some blanks, like where he came from and how he grew up. What if he did kill his gangster brother? It sounds to me like it needed to be done. Whoever did it saved you guys from having to do it. Maybe you should give him a medal if he is the one who did it. It's not just about who killed Mario and his bodyguards. We are still searching for more than $1 million that went missing from 6 banks. Probably whoever killed Mario has that money today, and we need to find it, Harley said firmly. Who is this Fontanilla guy? Buck asked. Lucas Fontanilla has been known to us for years as being in the Giovanni gang family, Lance began. He's a crook, but like so many other crooks, we haven't been able to pin anything on him strong enough to lock him up. He was active in local politics and community affairs in Chicago. It was impossible to get any negative public sentiment against him, even with the courts. I suspect he owns some judges and politicians, so every time we think we have something on him, he slides away. He's like trying to catch a trout with your bare hands. I think he was the brains behind Mario's outfit, and it looks like he may have taken all the liquid assets and killed those who might have objected. He disappeared just a few days after the biggest bank heist I have ever heard of. What Quigley told us makes a lot of sense. Ras and his family are not living like they have $1 million. They seem comfortable but not really rich, Buck surmised. If his dad helped him disappear, he probably lined his pockets before he left, Harley threw in. I'm sure he did, Lance said, contemplating a deeper thought. We need to focus on finding Fontanilla. Those wanted posters seem to be effective, and numerous pictures of Fontanilla are available in old Chicago Tribune newspapers. With $1 million from the banks and the fortune that must have been in Mario's empty vault, he could be anyone living anywhere in the world. Leaving his family behind may be only temporary. We need to watch everyone in the Fontanilla family as closely as possible. Buck, I trust you will watch Ras as closely as you can and report anything suspicious to us, Harley asked. I will, but I think you're barking up the wrong tree with Ras. He just wants to live his life and be left alone. It's not his fault that he was born into a life of crime. It sounds like he's been running from it all his life, Buck reasoned. Maybe, Maybe not. He may simply be a skilled storyteller. What if Fontanilla and Mario got into a disagreement, and Fontanilla ended up with cement shoes in a lake somewhere? Ras knows it and is using him as a scapegoat, Lance countered. It's possible, but how do you prove it? Buck asked a bit defensively. Please don't let your opinion of Quigley fog up your glasses, Sheriff. We need to leave all options open and not have predetermined ideas rule out any possibilities, Harley said convincingly. Buck parked his car in front of his office. The three men got out and stood on the street. Lance spoke. I guess we have no further business here, Sheriff. We need to return to Chicago and locate the Lucas. Thank you for your help, and please let us know if anything doesn't smell right. Sure thing, Buck replied, shaking hands with both Lance and Harley. Hope you find your men, whoever it is. Heading out of Victor, Lance Drury had a thought. You know, Harley, there's one bank teller from the 6-bank heist we haven't been able to interview. Remember, she had a forwarding address in Conifer Cliffs, Montana. Lance reached into the jockey box for a Montana road map. Conifer Cliffs, he said, scanning the map. Here it is. It's probably 200 miles out of the way driving back to Butte. But let's swing by there anyway and talk to Polly O'Reilly. I think her name is, if my memory serves me right. It's a bit strange she lives so close to Tony Giovanni, or that they're both in Montana, for that matter. I wonder if there's a chance they know each other. Head north to Missoula. This is beautiful country. I don't mind spending a few more days here. If I knew how pretty it was, I might have moved here myself, Harley said. It's nice all right, but too rural for a city boy like me, Lance countered. 4 hours later, the two agents checked in at the Conifer Cliffs Hotel, then walked across the town square to Dyson's Cafe and ordered dinner. Do you know a young woman in town named Polly O'Reilly? Lance Drury asked Laura Dyson. The only Polly I know in this town is Polly M.C. Catron, Laura replied. Has she lived here a long time? Not long. I think she came from Chicago. Her husband had moved here first. Then she came by train, and they got married the day she arrived, Laura reported. We fixed them a big wedding feast and served it in the park. Do you remember her maiden name? Harley Parks asked. I don't think I ever heard it. They live in the brown brick Victorian mansion across the street from the bank. He owns the bank and a big ranch just out of town, too. She works at the bank sometimes. They're really nice people, Laura continued. I think your dinner is ready. Laura returned with loaded plates and set them down in front of the two strangers. That was easy, Lance commented to Harley. I guess we start at the bank when it opens in the morning. We've covered a lot of ground today. I'm tired. I'm going to bed right after dinner. At 9 o'clock the next morning, Lance Drury and Harley Parks entered M.C. Catron Bank. May I help you? Samantha asked from her teller window. I hope so, Lance replied. We're looking for Polly O'Reilly. That's me, Polly said, overhearing the request from the vault. But now my name is Polly M.C. Catron. Mrs. M.C. Catron, I am FBI Special Agent Lance Drury, and this is Special Agent Harley Parks. We'd like to have a word with you, he said while both men showed her their badges. Actually, after reading a recent news article, I've sort of been expecting you, Polly smiled. I'm assuming you want to talk about the bank robbery I witnessed. Yes, Lance replied. I'd be glad to talk to you, but I already told the police everything I know. Come into my husband's office. I'd like him to be present during our conversation, even though he knows nothing about what you want to talk about. That's fine, Mrs. M.C. Catron. I understand, Lance agreed. Dax, listening from his backroom office, appeared. Dax M.C. Catron, he said, holding out his hand to the agents. Please step into my office, where you are welcome to talk to my wife. I think we are one chair short. I'll grab one from Fred's office. Polly, Dax, and the two agents exchanged pleasantries as they got comfortable. Mrs. M.C. Catron, I know you've already spoken with the Chicago police. but could you walk us through everything you can think of regarding the robbery you witnessed? Maybe you've thought of something since you talked to them. My statement was very short, and it still is going to be, Polly started. 3 men with masks stormed into the bank with guns and demanded the teller stuff all their money into a bag that one of the robbers brought to each window. I was at the last window, and the bag was full. The man with the bag told me to push harder and stuff my money in the bag. Then, he told me to hold the bag together so he could zip it up. Then he winked at me and took the bag, and all 3 ran out of the bank together. Could you recognize any of their voices if you heard them again? Harley asked. Maybe, but I'd recognize the steel blue eyes of the guy with the bag. They were a different color than I ever remember seeing. They weren't gray or blue. They were somewhere in between. He was really a big man, maybe 6.5 feet tall, more than 250 pounds, with an accent. Not Irish, for sure. Maybe Russian. His hands were huge, fingers like fat Polish sausages, too big to grab the little zipper on the bag. Kind of like a steam shovel trying to scoop up a fly, if you know what I mean. Oh, and a big, almost square head. Sounds like he'd be scary to arrest. Dax joked. Better take a big crew if you want to haul him in. Harley smiled. Did you notice any jewelry, tattoos, missing fingers, or anything like that? Not on the guy that came to my window, and the other 2 were too far away to get a good look at, Polly replied. Anything else come to mind? No. I think some of what I told you may not have been shared with the police before. They interviewed me just after the robbery, and I was still a nervous wreck. I didn't have time to process what happened. Oh, one more thing. Do you happen to know Tony Giovanni? No. Is that the guy I read about in the paper that wasn't in the coffin he was supposedly in? Yeah, that's him. Harley nodded. How about Ras Quigley? Do you know him? Polly gave Parks a strange look. What does he have to do with any of this? She said in surprise. Dax bought some cows from him down in the Bitterroot, and I made friends with his wife. His real name is Tony Giovanni. Did you have any connection with him in Chicago? No. No, I did not, Polly said, totally confused. Thank you for your time, Mrs. M.C. Catron. You've been very helpful. Being a banker and my wife being a witness, I can't help but be more than just a little interested in this case. Have you recovered any of the money? Not yet, Harley answered. I'm sorry we can't discuss a case that's still under investigation. What we can tell you is that throughout this crime, we lost too many cops and not enough gangsters, and it's not over yet. We're going to find that money, hell or high water, Harley declared. I hope you do, Mr. Parks, Dax lied. I'll walk you out. Driving out of Conifer Cliffs, Harley said, Did you catch who she described? Good, old Sergei Slikova. Unless there are more beasts like him wandering around. Ras Quigley made a full disclosure at a Grange meeting to the citizens of Victor, Montana, and the surrounding area as to who he was, where he came from, and why he moved to Victor under an erroneous name. Ras Quigley's life here in Montana has been a wonderful life, with fresh air and good neighbors. I don't ever want to have to live the life of Tony Giovanni. I want to be Ras Quigley from Victor, Montana. He expressed sincerely to the crowd. All the whispering about the wanted posters quieted, and the community accepted his explanation. But in Chicago, the whereabouts of Lucas Fontanilla and all that money remained unknown.